Good morning, Catalina Foothills Church. Hope you're well. Enjoyed being with you in worship on Sunday. For our devotion today, we're going to look at 1 Kings 19 and the story of Elijah running from Ahab and Jezebel. So, First Kings 19, I'll start in verse 10. And the word of the Lord came to him and said, "What are you doing here, Elijah?" And he replied, "I've been very, very zealous for the Lord God Almighty. The Israelites have rejected your covenant. They've torn down your altars. They've put your prophets to death with the sword. And I am the only one left. And now they are trying to kill me too." So it's the story of Elijah was a very powerful prophet, right? He was able in 1 Kings 18 to call down fire to show Yahweh's power and strength and imminence. And he'd been a prophet anointed for a long time. And now that the evil king Ahab and Jezebel are trying to pursue him and murder him, it appears that God is aloof, that God is checked out, that God is no longer at work. Literally, Elijah is looking around and going, "I'm the only one that cares." The people have rejected your covenant, meaning they have put the faith away. They are running towards false gods. They've torn down your altars. They're destroying the churches. They've put your prophets to death with the sword. They're killing all the pastors. They're killing all the priests. And I am the only one left. And now they're trying to kill me too. And so he's convinced God is no longer at work. God has abandoned me. And he is convinced that he's the only one that cares. Okay? And it's projecting that he's at this point where he's kind of depressed, scared, / kind of self-righteous and really confused. Because everywhere he looks, he cannot see God at work. Okay? And I think, honest, a lot of us can really relate to that right now. The pandemic stuff just keeps changing every day. The government and the media are confusing. Friends are at different places on this. And, when you look around, you can kind of almost get to the point where you kind of start to feel like, well, God, are you even at work? Like, what are you doing? Where are you? Because it seems like everything has gone into mad chaos. And I want you to see the story of how God responds to him. In verse 11, the Lord says, "I want you to go out, and I want you to stand on the mountain in the presence of the Lord, and the Lord is about to pass by Elijah." And then a great and powerful wind tears the mountain apart, shatters the rocks before the Lord, and the Lord was not in the wind. And after the wind there was an earthquake, and the Lord was not in the earthquake. And after the earthquake came a fire, but the Lord was not in the fire. What's fascinating about this is these are all three things that were consistent in the Old Testament that the God would use or God would do when he was about to give divine revelation, when God was about to give his power, when God would do very strong physical manifestations of showing I am God and I am at work. And yet, in all three of these things, the scriptures say the Lord was not there. He was not in them. He was not present. And this is very confusing to Elijah. Verse 13. And when Elijah heard it, he pulled his cloak over his face, and he went out and he stood at the mouth of the cave. And a voice said to him, "What are you doing, Elijah?" And then Elijah repeats the exact same thing. "I have been very zealous. The Israelites are rejecting you. They're tearing things down. They're killing everybody, and they're out to kill me. And I'm the only one left. I'm the only one that cares." Okay? Then in verse 15, the Lord said to him, "Well, go back. I want you to go back the way you came. And I want you to go to the desert of Damascus. And when you get there, you're going to anoint Hazael, king of Aram. And you're going to anoint Jehu, son of Nimshi, king over Israel. And then you're going to anoint Elisha, the son of Shaphat, from Abel Melah, to succeed you as prophet. And Jehu will put to death any who escape the sword of Hazael. And Elisha will put to death any who escape the sword of Jehu. And yet, I reserve 7,000 in Israel, whose knees have not bowed down to Baal, and will not kiss him." In other words, the Lord comes back to him and just says, basically says, "Elijah, even when I'm not doing the mighty things that you think I'm doing, even when I'm not doing what you think I should be doing, even when you do not see me doing the mighty things that you think I should be doing, I'm still at work. I'm always at work. You're not convinced that I'm at work. I am. You're not convinced I'm paying attention. I am." And the whole point of those three powerful, things of the wind, the fire, the earthquake were to show him that basically, even though they were occurring and he couldn't see God, God was at work. And then he finally brings it back down. And he says, I want you to go anoint this person, and I want you to anoint person, and I want you to anoint this person. And I have 7,000. 7,000 I reserved. In other words, you're not the only one at all, Elijah. I am at work, and I am setting things up. Instead of you thinking that you have to be the one to solve everything, instead of you thinking you have to be the one to carry the load, to create everything, he's saying, Elijah, why don't you take a step back? And why don't you take a step back and watch and look and see where I'm at work and then get on board with that? And it's just kind of, very humbling encounter he has where Elijah is reminded that even though things aren't looking the way he thinks they should look, even though he is convinced that there's despair and there's hopelessness, God is saying, no. I'm very much at work navigating this. And that should be enough for you, Elijah. It should be enough for you that I say I am who I am. And it should be enough for you that I'm always at work. And you can trust that. That's really good for me to hear. And I think that's really good for all of us to hear. Because whether or not the pandemic gets better or worse, whether things financially are hard, whether things are confusing, we need you to trust. The Bible's asking you to trust that it is enough for us that God is at work, even when we can't understand or He's not doing what we think He should be doing. And so let that encourage you today. You're not alone, and He's not aloof. He's very much in motion. So we love you, and we'll look forward to seeing you this weekend. Goodbye.